Welcome back. Our sponsors at Woods Oviatt Gilman have been serving the Western New York area since 1852. And here with us today to talk about real estate is Thomas and Caroline. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Chelsea, for having us.
Of course. Well, welcome again. And for those who have missed your previous appearances, just tell us a little bit about what you do at Woods Oviatt Gilman.
Sure. Tom Rickardson is my guest today. He's with our real estate and finance group, and I'm with the trust and estates group, and we help our fellow Western New Yorkers with planning for leaving a legacy, but also for reducing or eliminating long-term care costs and being able to do that with peace of mind.
Nice. Okay. Now, last time you were here, we talked about avoiding probate. So when we talk about real estate, who should consider doing that?
Well, first let me remind our viewers what avoiding probate means. So probate is a court process in which we have to ask the court for permission to have access to an asset when someone passes away and to be able to distribute it. And then real estate has special considerations. And so, Tom?
Sure. So anyone who owns real estate should want to avoid probate if you want to avoid a lengthy court process and the costs involved. People who may want to consider that in particular are people who own multiple properties, perhaps in different states, because you would have to go through the probate process in each of those states, for instance, in New York and Florida, if you had a condo down there or something. Or if you own maybe a lake house or a hunting camp or something more locally, you may want to consider how do you leave a legacy for your children or your grandchildren, and ensure that they can continue to enjoy that property when you're done with it.
Okay, alrighty. So what are some special considerations that apply to real estate?
Sure. One thing you may want to consider when you're first buying a house is whose name are you putting on the deed? If you are a married couple, usually both of your names will be on there. It will indicate that you're married, and that's great because if one of you passes away before the other, the title will automatically transfer to the surviving spouse. There's no additional paperwork. You don't need to record anything with the clerk, which is great. But a lot of people buy houses nowadays before they're married, and so maybe only one name is on the deed. And if you then get married a few years later, you may want to consider putting that other person on the deed so that you can avoid any headaches that come at you in the future.
Yeah.
Another consideration is if you do own perhaps a second property, like my grandparents who owned a cottage at Silver Lake, they wanted to think about how can my children and grandchildren enjoy this? Do we want to maybe put the property into a trust or into an LLC so that we can help divvy up the responsibilities, the costs involved with running it, et cetera?
I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to ask when is the appropriate time to use a trust with real estate, and when would a corporate entity like an LLC be used?
Sure. So for a trust is a legal vehicle, and one of the main considerations we look at when using a trust is, are we looking to protect the asset from estate tax consequences or for purposes of not having the state recoup funds for long-term care costs? So a trust is ideal for that. It needs to be irrevocable in those two cases. Sometimes we do ones that you can amend and change, but the irrevocable asset protection trusts, you cannot change, they cannot be modified. So often then we look to corporate entities that allow for those additional things.
Sure. So the most common entity would probably be an LLC, limited liability company. One major advantage is that they can go on forever. As long as you have members in the entity, it can continue, and you just have to file with the state every so often. They're also easy to modify. You don't need to really record anything. You can come to an agreement amongst yourselves and write down what you're looking to do. And also, it creates a liability shield. So maybe you own a rental property. I would highly recommend putting it into an LLC because if anything ever happens, there's an accident, insurance is involved, it limits what they can go after to just the entity's ownership in the property. They can't go after your personal bank accounts or your retirement or anything like that.
All Alrighty, you've given us some good tips here, things to consider, but viewers, if you would like more information on all of the services our sponsors at Woods Oviatt Gilman have to offer, just head over to their website at woodsoviatt.com. Thanks again for coming in.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.